My name is Derek Lee, and this is my term project for 15112. So first, let's run my program. So I created a stock data analysis tool. The first aspect of my project would be the ratio analysis. So if you just want to look at a single stock, you can look at the various key metrics like return on equity, cash ratio, and you can see what these ratios were for the past 8 years or so. And you can also compare between different stocks, right? So if you have Intel and you want to compare between JP Morgan, Coca-Cola, and McDonald's, you can do that. And you can see how the different ratios have changed for these companies throughout the years and how that changes what the valuations of these companies end up being. Also, there's a more info section in this part, so it actually explains what these ratios actually mean for people who are who know less about finance, so that they actually know how these ratios are calculated and what they mean, and like what they actually mean for the company's evaluation. So after this, there is the stock performance part. So this actually looks at previous stock or historical stock data from the past year. So if you look at Apple and you pull up its historical price data, you can see what it's done in the past year. But also it has a predictive aspect. So if you want to see what a stock prediction for the next month would look like, you can do that, and it'll be in a separate color, and you can see that it predicts that the stock price of Apple will go up. This is calculated based off using key metrics like cash ratio. So if the cash ratio looks good for this company, it'll predict that it'll go up, and it obviously uses multiple of these ratios to calculate that. It also looks at expected returns from the previous year to further, calculate what the future stock prices will look like. You can also look at up to 2 stocks for this. So if you look at Facebook and Coca-Cola, you can pull up like what it'll say it'll go to for the next year. So you can see that Facebook and Coca-Cola both have good metrics, so it predicts that the stocks will go up in the next year. And that's based off of, obviously, the ratios and the previous year's returns. So the last part and the most interesting part of the project would be the portfolio builder. So if you're a user, you can put in your metrics and which stocks you want to put in your portfolio and how much risk you want, and it'll create a portfolio for you. So if you look, so let's say you're a user and you want a low risk portfolio with JP Morgan stocks. So this makes sense, right? So you'd have 95% Treasury bills and 5% JP Morgan. So this is true because if you want low risk, you want to have Treasury bills in your as the majority part of your portfolio, because Treasury bills have 0% risk. And then obviously to fill out the rest of it, you would want to fill it with JP Morgan, which has a higher expected returns than Treasury bills, but obviously also has a higher volatility rate. So it also tells you what the expected returns of this portfolio would be and what the volatility rate is. But then if you're a user on the other side of the spectrum and you want to have a high risk portfolio with just JP Morgan, obviously you would only want JP Morgan stock because it has the highest expected return, and it also has a high volatility rate, but you don't really care about that if you're looking for high risk, so you don't need to have Treasury bills in your portfolio. So let's create a portfolio now. So we can look at a low risk portfolio with, Facebook, General Motors, JP Morgan, Coke, Macy's, McDonald's, Microsoft. So let's create this portfolio. So if you look at this portfolio, you can see what the expected returns are, around 4.95% with volatility rate of 29%, and you can see that this is how it's spread out in how to calculate what the portfolio looks like, and these distributions are calculated based off of what expected returns look like and what the standard deviation or volatility rate of these stocks are, based off of how much the user is willing to take on. So if you look at this, if you look at the medium risk, you'll see that the expected returns goes up from 4.95% to 7.11%, and the volatility rate also goes up because obviously this user is able to take more expected returns, but that's at a cost of a higher volatility rate. And you can see that the stock proportions and distributions of how the portfolio is spread out changes. So obviously if you go to high, it'll be even higher expected returns, but even a higher volatility rate with a different distribution of stocks. So this is my term project. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching.